Alright, hey, what's going on, guys? Just want to go ahead and make a quick video, this time on Warrior. Um, so before I start, just a quick thing, two quick things actually. One, I'm gonna do this one shot, no BS again, so please excuse me for the mistakes that I make. I'm bound to make them. And the second thing is, I'm not the end all be all when it comes to Warrior for sure. I'm sure there is probably better information out there that you can find on Warrior on YouTube or just somewhere on the internet. Please do take what I say with a little bit of a grain of salt because I know there is probably some information out there. However, at the same time, in Party Finder, I see a lot of warriors doing a lot of weird stuff that they probably shouldn't be doing, and I'll get into why that, why you shouldn't be doing that, as well as like some, tips and tricks and stuff that you should be, staying away from on Warrior, some things that you should be doing on Warrior, and just some overall lessons. Hopefully, hopefully you learn something. Who knows? You might not. Uh, so I'm gonna go ahead and just talk about my melds really quick. Pretty uh simple. I meld crit, where I can't meld crit. I meld det, and then I also have a little bit of skill speed. And if you didn't watch my last video, I have skill speed on both Warrior and Dark Knight for basically the exact same reason. Um, Basically, it's just to help make things align a little bit better and just kind of help with the overall playability of the class. Obviously, if you don't think you need it, you don't have to. I mean, it's kind of just like a personal thing at this point, but I seem to helps me. I seem to find that it helps me out quite a bit, so I like to have it. All right, so let me go ahead and do this opener that I have really quick, and um, yeah. So it's pretty simple. You just do your tomahawk, infuriate, inner chaos, and then you're gonna do your eye combo. And then as soon as you do your eye combo, you're gonna delay your inner release, upheaval, and then onslaught because it's free. Why not? And then another fell cleave, and then another inner chaos, and then another inner chaos. And this is all while I'm doing the last part of my eye combo. And yeah, inner chaos, and then just fell cleave. It's pretty simple, right? Like there's nothing crazy about the opener. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Nothing, no, no crazy timing windows like the one I had on Dark Knight or anything like that. Just uh, pretty easy. Um, so with that said, I want to talk about just the overall power on Warrior before I get into too much detail. Um, right now, Warrior does the least DPS, and let me explain why that I don't think that's a good thing. First of all, the other two tanks, Paladin. Well, okay, so Dark Knight and Warrior both, in my opinion, are a little bit more challenging to play than Paladin and Gunbreaker, right? So I think because of that, Warrior should be doing a little bit more DPS. And I know you might be thinking, hey, you just said the fucking opener was crazy easy. I don't think that the challenge of Warrior really comes with the opener. I think the challenge of Warrior comes with just keeping your eye up and making sure that it aligns with things like inner release and stuff like that. And also, you want to keep your upheaval for your inner release windows, but at the same time, using on cooldown. Sometimes you have to use. Sometimes you have to save your upheaval, and then making sure that your infuriates don't conflict with your inner release and just those things. I think that's what makes Warrior challenging to play. Is it the hardest tank? Yeah, maybe. Um, but it's really kind of hard to say. It probably is just going to come down to, um, what you find hard or what you find easy. I do think, uh, straight simple Warrior is harder than Gunbreaker and Paladin, and Dark Knight's harder than Gunbreaker and Paladin. So, with that said, uh, the DPS I think should go up just a smidge. Now, obviously, I don't think they should be doing the most DPS because In my opinion, Dark Knight should be doing the most DPS just because based on their utility and stuff. But I'll probably go into that in a different video. But yeah, DPS I hope gets increased just a smidge, not too crazy much, but just a smidge. And then when it comes to cooldowns, Warrior is still super duper 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 strong. They're probably still the best in that regards, just when it comes to personal CDs, in terms of power, in terms of strength in that area. Home gang, still ridiculously good. I know some people like to think that this got nerfed, and I can kind of understand why, because of the timer, right? Because the timer went up. But the fact that you can do this and you don't have to have a target, and you can just, I'm not chained to anything and I can actually move, kind of makes it a little bit better, right? I think that actually was a good trade off. I personally like the change that they made to Home Gang. Do I think it got nerfed? No. Do I think it got buffed? No. I think it's kind of just the same, right? I think it didn't get buffed, it did get nerfed. I think it's just kind of the same in terms of strength. Still really, really, this is still easily the best invuln in the game. I don't think there's any really debate for it, just because of the fact that it's a 240-second cooldown. I just think it's the best one. Uh, what else? Thrill Battle is still really good. I mean, if we were to compare this, like this is kind of like your Sentinel Shadow Wall uh, skill, right? So if you compare it in terms of that, you're like in terms of Shadow Wall, Sentinel, Nebula, this is easily, I think, the strongest one, because I think this can be used for a lot more things than those three can, and on top of that, it's 90 seconds. So if we're comparing apples to oranges here, this is this is the best one. Like this is easily the best one out of the four. And then you just have Vengeance, which is still really really strong. And then you have Equilibrium, which is good. 60 seconds off the GCD. Clemency basically. I know Clemency is a little bit stronger, but I think this is still really good. Like Equilibrium still really good. Uh, and then on top of all of that, you have Raw Intuition and Nascent Flash. And these two are really good. Both of these are really good. Both of them have situations that you'll want to use either or for. I think it's a little bit weird that they share the same cooldown, but I think it's completely within the realm of of power and balance that they do share the same cooldown. Because if both of these were separate and they just both were 25 seconds, oh boy, would Warrior just be broken in terms of utility and power and in the defensive aspect of things. Uh, but Raw Intuition, really good. The fact that it's 25 seconds basically means that you'll have this for every tank buster. I don't see, you know, how that can really be topped. That's just really, really nice. And Nascent Flash. This is really good too. Like this is really good in a lot of different situations. It's like everywhere you can't use Raw Intuition, Nascent Flash is is can be used, and it is just as good in terms of strength, right? Because these are both really powerful. This is really good, like kind of when you're off tanking, and like you're gonna need some healing maybe on the main tank, uh, and stuff like that. But it can also be used on anyone else, right? It can be used on the healer, on the DPS, and on top of all of that, not only does it heal them, but it heals you, right? So it's really strong, really good. Personally, I really like it, and I think the defensive cooldowns on Warrior are still really, really strong. I think probably it's the best, right? Like you can't really go wrong when it comes to personal CDs on Warrior because they're really, really good. Shake It Off is their utility ability that we all the tanks kind of got. Uh, it's kind of hard to say if this is like the best one you know, or if it's kind of just mid. I find it's really good still. No complaints really in that area. So the utility on Warrior isn't crazy or anything like that. It's not like Paladin levels of utility. It's not like this is cover or anything. But it's still really strong. I think. I think Warrior has got pretty strong utility and pretty strong uh, CDs, personal CDs. And obviously, the utility isn't like amazing or anything, but it's still pretty good. So in that regards, they're really good. The issue, and this is a big issue, is honestly the only issue that I see, other than the fact that this costs 20 gauge. This is still kind of weird that it costs 20 gauge. I think I don't know why it does. I think should just be like plunge or uh, fuck, what's it called on Paladin? I don't know. I forget the name of it already. But it should be like plunge, right? Where it's just a charged ability that's up every 30 seconds and you can get two of them. I don't know why this costs gauge. It doesn't make sense that it costs gauge. It really just it doesn't serve much purpose because you're not going to use it, right? Unless you're like unless you really need to use it. So it doesn't it doesn't sit really well with me, you know? I don't like it. I just wish it was like plunge, where it just was two charged attacks, and it was on a cooldown of its own. It didn't cost gauge or anything like that. It just was free. So yeah, and then but the issue that I was talking about before is the way that inner release and your infuriate uh kind of conflicts with each other. It's really easy to see a lot of warriors doing this, right? They'll put their eyes on, and then they'll do infuriate, and then oh yeah, the folk leave. Oh okay, but they just used infuriate in their inner release window. Like that is so bad. That is so terrible to do. If you're doing that, stop it, please. You're really not doing yourself justice if you do that. It's a huge, 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 huge DPS loss if you do it, and it just when I see it, I get a little bit triggered. I'm not even gonna lie. it really, it really, uh, it really is the only thing that I see warriors doing that really triggers me. I know a lot of warriors don't know, and this is another like a kind of like another tip. A lot of warriors don't do upheaval within their inner release window. Like, let's say inner release is, 10 seconds off cooldown and I just use upheaval, right? Like, yeah, you want to use upheaval every time it's off cooldown for sure. But at the same time, if you see it inner release coming off of cooldown, you want to make sure that you have that upheaval for it because it's basically just a free direct hitted, critted upheaval, right? So you want to make sure you want to try to make sure that those things align. Um, So yeah, but going back to my original point, I know this is really getting off topic really quick, and I'm sorry for that. But inner release and infuriate kind of contradict each other, and because it's just simple because it's just so weird, and the opener is kind of like the best description of why it's weird. Like you have to do tomahawk infuriate or what Tomahawk Inferior Inner Chaos before you even get your Storm's Eye up. Like that's so weird, right? It doesn't make sense to me that it's that way. It makes it feel really weird. And honestly, another aspect of why Warrior is hard, like if you're using in release and infuriate at the same time, you're fucking up. But at the same time, if you don't use these infuriates literally every single time that they're up, and making sure that you have as many inner chaoses getting out as humanly possible, you're losing big, big, big amounts of damage. So you want to hit infuriate as often as possible. So I kind of actually do understand why some warriors will do, they'll do their inner release and then they'll hit infuriate. It's really stupid. It's really fucking stupid to do, but I kind of understand why because not hitting your infuriate to do your inner release is huge. Like you hate to see it, but it happens all the time and you don't want to do it. So it really kind of conflicts with the way uh, that the class plays altogether. And that's really my only issue with Warrior, other than the onslaught that I talked about before. Other if they changed onslaught and maybe the way infuriate works, I think this class would be perfect, right? Like I think the the defensive. So if they if so, let's say they do this. Let's say they fix onslaught so that it's, just a charged action like plunge is, and it's on the global, and it's just a CD, right? And then they, fix infuriate a little bit, and then they just increase their damage overall just a little bit. I think this is like the perfect tank. Like there's really nothing else that's wrong with it. It just feels a little bit clunky in my opinion because of the way that the infuriate works. Like it's just plain and simple. You want to be hitting this button every single time that you can because holy cow, 37k damage on a tank, that's just retardedly good. So there's just no reason why you don't want to hit this as often as possible. But again, if you're doing, inner release and then you're doing that, it's bad. It's bad. Don't want to do that. So, uh, anyway, I think that's all I really wanted to talk about for Warrior. I know that there is probably some better information that you guys can find on YouTube and everything else. But I do hope you guys, maybe learn something. You could take away something away from this video. Uh, and other than that, I just kind of hope that they change in the patches and the changes and the job adjusting and balancing that they do in the future. They change uh, the way Inferiori and Inner Release sort of contradict one another and sort of how they butt heads. Like there really are two skills that kind of just like butt heads with each other, and it really can be frustrating sometimes. Uh, but yeah, other than that, hope they change Onslaught. Hope they change this and just make sure that they don't, clash with each other. And other than that, Warrior's beautiful. Warrior's perfect, right? Warrior is really good. Um, I don't really see anything else wrong with it. Maybe this could be, you know, maybe Storm's Eye could just be, a GCD that you put on, kind of like Gunbreaker has, where they just have a GCD dot that they can just put on at will. Maybe that can be used because it is kind of weird to see that Dark Knight and Warrior kind of play similar, but they have to do you know a whole combo just to get this off. I don't know what happened there. What the hell? Anyway, they have to do a whole combo to get this Storm's Eye off, right? Whereas on Dark Knight, I have to get away from the dummy here. Sorry. On Dark Knight, can you please let me change? Hello. Okay. On Dark Knight, it's literally just one button away. Like it's literally one button, and we get this exact same thing. we get the same thing, right? So it is kind of weird. Um, but it's whatever. I still really like Warrior. It's still really fun to play. Um, I still think Warrior and Dark Knight both are probably two of the harder tanks, and Paladin and Gunbreaker are a little bit easier. But right now, in terms of balance, Paladin and Gunbreaker are actually better, just in every way, shape, and form. And I'll make I'll probably make a Gunbreaker video, uh, and explain why it being the most damaging class really is kind of fucking hard to see. It's hard to watch, Gunbreakers do more damage than you on your Dark Knight. And I'll talk about that in that video. But for now, I hope you guys learned something on Warrior. I hope you enjoyed the video. And again, thank you for watching.